In a world that's absolutely obsessed with metrics, tribal leadership comes along and dares to ask a really powerful question. What if culture, not strategy, is the real engine of performance? The authors spent a decade researching over 24,000 people, and what they found is that every single organization is basically a collection of tribes. These are the natural social groups, right? The ones whose shared language and relationships shape literally everything, from morale all the way to innovation. So what does that mean? It means leadership isn't about commanding from the top down. It's about elevating everyone from within.
And I love how the authors put it. They say this book is not a manual, it's a mirror, a map, and a movement.
So, in this explainer, we're going to walk through the absolute core of tribal leadership. First, we'll uncover that hidden social fabric that holds organizations together. Then, we'll get into the really cool part, mapping the 5 stages of culture. After that, we'll open up the Leader's Elevation Toolkit to see how you can actually help your teams level up. We'll also talk about what it means to fuel a noble cause, and finally, we'll see what this all looks like when we put leadership into action.
All right, let's jump right into our first big idea, the hidden social fabric. The authors kick things off with this huge revelation. Organizations are not machines.
No, instead, they're more like living, breathing ecosystems of tribes. So what exactly is a tribe? Well, it's a group, maybe 20 to 150 people, who know each other, who share a common language, and have a kind of emotional connection. And here's the fascinating part. These groups just form on their own, organically. And a lot of the time, they have way more influence than the formal teams on your official org chart. Here's a simple way to think about it. A tribe is defined by recognition. If you saw them on the street, would you stop and say hello? That's really the essence of it. And these tribes, they are the ones that are actually shaping the culture, way more than any fancy strategy document or a C-suite title ever could. So for any leader out there, the very first step isn't to start commanding people. It's just to learn how to see this hidden tribal landscape. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's all about shifting your perspective. You have to stop looking at the rigid boxes on an organizational chart and start seeing the living, breathing human networks that are actually there. I mean, it's a huge change from just managing a bunch of separate parts to actually nurturing the whole system. Okay, now we get to the really fascinating part, mapping the 5 stages. This is the absolute heart of the tribal leadership framework. The authors found that there are 5 distinct cultural stages, and what's wild is that each one has its own unique language, its own way of seeing the world. At the very bottom, you have stage 1. The dominant thought here is just life sucks. These are people who feel alienated, maybe even hostile. Then you move up a tiny bit to stage 2, which is all about my life sucks. People here see themselves as passive victims. They're pretty disengaged. Now, stage 3 is where it gets interesting. This is the I'm great and you're not stage. It's full of lone warriors, super competitive, very self-focused. But the real magic starts at stage 4. This is where the language flips to we're great. This is where you find those truly collaborative tribes, all united by a set of shared values. And finally, at the very top, you have stage 5, where the mindset is life is great. These are the rare, visionary tribes that are focused on making a huge global impact. You can think of each stage as its own kind of cultural plateau. And the real art of leadership, then, is elevation. It's about moving tribes from one stage to the next. And you don't do it by force, you do it through resonance. So, now that we get the 5 stages, the million-dollar question is, how do you actually help a tribe move up? Well, that's where the Leader's Elevation Toolkit comes in. We're going to look at 3 key tools: diagnosis, trust, and values. Okay, the very first tool is just about observation. I mean, you can't change something if you don't understand it, right? The book says that leaders need to almost become cultural anthropologists, tuning into the language, the stories, the relationships to figure out exactly which stage a tribe is in. So what are the clues you're looking for? Well, language is a huge giveaway. If you hear a lot of, they just don't get it, that is a classic stage 3 comment. But if you're hearing, we're aligned on this, you're probably in stage 4. Relationships are another big clue. Stage 3 is all about those one-on-one relationships, what the book calls dyads. But stage 4, that's where triads, networks of 3 people, really thrive. And you have to remember, this whole thing is dynamic. A tribe can move up or down depending on what's going on. And these triads, they are the absolute secret sauce of a stage 4 culture. See, unlike those one-on-one dyads, which can easily turn into echo chambers or little power struggles, these 3-person networks create a really resilient, self-sustaining sense of trust and accountability. This means a leader's job is really to be a connector.
You're creating these triads by introducing people who share values or have skills that complement each other. And these triads are so powerful. They build accountability, they spark innovation, they create a kind of collective intelligence. And it all comes back to this. The goal isn't control, it's connection. True influence flows through trust, not through your job title.
Now, Stage 4 tribes are also anchored by their core values. But here's the crucial thing. We are not talking about slogans you put on a poster. Values are lived experiences. A leader's job is to help the tribe discover and articulate their authentic values, usually through storytelling and reflection. Because when the values are real, they act like a compass, guiding every decision toward purpose and integrity.
All right, so getting to Stage 4 is huge. But what comes after that? How do you go from being great to being something even more impactful? Well, that is what this next section is all about, fueling a noble cause.
Stage 5 tribes are the ones that have moved completely beyond competition. They aren't driven by profit or ego. They're driven by a noble cause, a bold, selfless vision that just energizes the entire tribe. A noble cause isn't just another goal on a checklist. It's a calling. We're talking about huge ideas like end hunger, reinvent education, or heal the planet. It creates this deep emotional connection and gives everyone incredible strategic clarity. The leader's role here is to help the tribe find and fully commit to their cause.
So how do we put this all into practice? The book gives us a super clear roadmap. Step 1, diagnose your tribe's current stage. You just have to listen and observe. Step 2, use the leverage points we've been talking about. Build triads, clarify values, and find that noble cause. Step 3, and this is so important, don't try to skip stages. It's a journey and each step matters. And finally, Step 4, reinforce the progress you make. Celebrate the shifts through rituals and by telling new stories.
All right, let's bring this all home and look at leadership in action. This is how we take these ideas from theory and turn them into a lived practice. Just imagine a tech company stuck in that competitive, I'm great, Stage 3, and then they make the shift to a collaborative Stage 4, and suddenly innovation just takes off. Or picture a healthcare team that finds its noble cause and completely revolutionizes patient care. Or even a nonprofit that hits Stage 5 and starts influencing global policy. The message here is crystal clear. This isn't just a theory, it's a real, lived practice.
But here's the thing. Leadership isn't just a role you play. It's a personal journey, and it really begins inside you. To elevate their tribes, leaders have to evolve personally. It takes a ton of emotional intelligence, humility, and courage. The journey is just as much inward as it is outward, and it demands constant reflection, resilience, and renewal.
Ultimately, tribal leadership is way more than just another management book. It's almost a manifesto for how to be a steward of culture. It invites us all to lead not just with strategy, but with stories, with values, and with a compelling vision. And honestly, in a world that is starving for connection and meaning, tribal leaders are the true architects of belonging.
I'll leave you with this powerful quote from the book. The tribe is not a group, it's a heartbeat, and leadership is the rhythm that lifts it.